Welcome to yet another, try it again. Welcome to yet another edition of the High School Football Roundup podcast on the Southwest Georgia Network, the Southwest Georgia Network Twitter feed. We're on the Southwest Georgia Network is on Twitter network, and there's also a link to subscribe to the YouTube channel. The link on the youtube.com link/channel. Bunch of just a bunch of letters and numbers. That includes lower as well as uppercase letters that I'm not going to even have time to get into. Anyway, I'm your host Walter Johnson, and over about the next hour or so, or less, or more, give or take, I'm going to this week's focus will be on the high school football playoff races, and more specifically the GHSA playoff races, with just 2 weeks left in the regular season, and also look at the GISA playoff, GISA teams. They're in the playoffs, starting with the first round this Friday, and not a whole lot of time to waste. So I'm going to get not a whole lot of time. Not a whole lot of time to waste. Go ahead and get started. And we're gonna things underway in with the GHSA playoff race to start would be in a Region 1-6A, and looking at and of course the big story this week in Week 10 of the high school football season was the Valdosta Wildcats, the defending GHSA Class 6A state champions, pulling off the upset over top former number one in the registration poll and number two in the Georgia high school football daily poll, depending on which poll on the most. County Trojans. The game, just came down to the wire, and Valdosta hit the ball that would eventually stand up. Cats pull off the upset over Lee County. 31-28 was the final score, and Valdosta not only ends Lee County's quest to 9-0 for the first time ever. More importantly, Cats also prevented the Trojans in Region 1-6A action with just one game to play. That's against Coffee. Berg at Trojan Field on the campus of Lee County High School. November 3rd. And how about the impact the loss to Valdosta? What kind of impact does Lee County's loss to Valdosta have on the Region 1-6A playoff race? It had Lee County taking care of business, and had they won, Valdosta, which Lee County's never done in 8 tries now. And then and Coffee had defeated Valdosta this week. Valdosta plays at Coffee up in Douglas, Georgia this Friday night at Jardine Stadium. And had Lee County won, and a Coffee win over Valdosta of undefeated teams. No, up in Leesburg come Friday, November 3rd. But as it is, Lee County will be 2-1 in region play and 8-1 overall. County has this week off, taking Region 1 6A, and Lee County again had the chance to all but wrap up a playoff berth, but they got knocked off at Valdosta, and then also and then and as a result of Lee County's upset loss at Valdosta, took over sole possession in first place in GHSA Region 1 6A with a narrow 14-12 win at home over north side of Warner Robins. And basically from wire to wire. And the Trojans from Douglas led 14-6. And then, but with 1:08 to play in the contest, and north side of Warner Robins scored a touchdown, made the score 14-12. And then the Eagles tried to go for two, but that 2-point conversion try failed. And Coffee held on to win. And thanks to Valdosta's upset win over Lee County, Coffee's narrow escape over north side of Warner Robins, Coffee now has sole possession of first place in Region 1 6A. At least that's the case for right now. You see, Coffee plays host to Valdosta on a Friday night. And so Lee County plays host to Valdosta on Friday night. Critch and Coffee plays host to Valdosta on Friday night. And Coffee is undefeated in Region 1 6A action at 2-0 and 5-2 overall in Valdosta. Knocking off Lee County 1 overall, 3-5 in GHSA Region 1 6A. And so if Lee County were to, so if Valdosta knocks off Coffee, so if and therefore complete. Therefore, in the process, the Cats complete a sweep of both Trojan teams from Region 1 6A, and it'll be a three-way tie for first place in the league. The final week of the regular season. Both Coffee and Lee County, believe it or not, worse than a three-way tie. That would take a lot of strange circumstances for that to happen, and it would take a lot of strange circumstances for that to happen. And Coffee can clinch a playoff berth this week if they defeat Valdosta. And both and Lee County can still clinch in Lee County despite the loss last week at Valdosta and by this week, lost again despite the loss at Valdosta this week and a bye this week, still get into the playoffs. If Houston County were to lose Robins, looking at the Region 1 6A standings again, Coffee 2-0 in the region, 5-2 overall in first place. Lee County 2-1 in the region, 8-1 overall. Valdosta loss in the region, having lost to north side of Warner Robins, but County sits at 3-5 overall. The north side of Warner Robins, 2 in the region, 6-3 overall. Houston County side looking in as far as getting the playoffs, and the Bears under first year head coach Ryan Crawford, seeing Williston region play at 0-2, 2-6 in the region. And see, looking at Valdosta, and then before their upset loss to before knocking off Lee County last week, like Valdosta were off to get the job done. Not only is Valdosta discussion County, they could conceivably win the region title if they beat Coffee this week and Houston County next week, and could also easily wind up sitting at home if they lose their final 2 games. With the way things have been so far this season, especially during region play, anything can happen. Also proved that at Dodge last week with that win over Lee County, and then County, I should say, Pittsburgh committed 11 penalties, yards, according to the Georgia High School Football Daily newsletter. But also was only penalized 2 times for 20 yards. Doesn't matter what team you play for or who your head coach is. Doesn't even matter if your head coach is Nick Saban or Dabo Sweeney, Urban Meyer. Doesn't matter. I mean, you turn the ball over too many times, and eventually it's going to cost you the game. And unfortunately, those mistakes eventually cost Lee County last week a chance to go 9-0 for the first time ever. So -1 in turnover ratio. In Lee County, much better position, took care of business, and again, back to Valdosta. I mean, just that simple. If you're the Wild, it's just that simple. If you win your final 2 games, knock off Coffee this week, and then beat Houston County next week, you can end up being the region champs. There's a crazy scenario. You can end up in like a 2, you maybe in a 4-way tie for the north side of Warner Robins, and taking on Houston County this week. There's some tough losses for them, and it's a lot tough back-to-back losses. And they lose a couple of weeks ago. They lost at Lee County in overtime, 16-13, Friday the 13th, and it was a defensive struggle that resulted in a 10-all tie at the end of regulation. And then Northside kicked the field goal to take a 13-10 lead, but only to lose that game. Only to lose when Lee County scored a touchdown overtime possession. This week gave Coffee all can handle. Way short. And again, thanks to that or no thanks to that missed 2-point conversion. And tough heartbreaking losses for Northside of Warner Robins, and now travel Houston County in a game that could basically could decide their season. And for Northside of Warner Robins, they beat Houston County this week, and they're in the playoffs no matter what. But they lose, but they'll pull off the upset and miss out on postseason play entirely. Northside of Warner Robins and is in with a win, but on the playoffs altogether. And speaking of the Houston County Bears, lose to the north side of Warner Robins this week, automatically eliminated from playoff contention, so, which would mean Lee County would make the playoffs. It does against Coffee next week. Yeah, could and Lee County could surely Lee County wants to win the region title, not only win the region title, but also get the number 1 seed. Feel advantage for at least for 2, maybe up to 3 games in the playoffs. In GHSA Region 16A, it's in Valdosta and the Valdosta Coffee and the Warner Robins games. A couple of games they'll be worth watching, or at least following this week. Shifting the focus now to GHSA Region 14A. And right now, America Sumter is in the driver's seat in that region. 5-0, undefeated in region play, 5-0, and 6-2 overall. Then north side of Columbus and Cairo, and both of those teams this week. Squaring off this Friday night in Columbus. Both north side, Columbus and Cairo, in Region 14A. You got Columbus and Northside Columbus in that 7-1 overall. Only loss so far. And came to America Sumter. That was way back in the second week of the season. This is in the second region contest of the season, 21-17 on September 22nd. And you got Columbus, Hardaway, and Harvard Columbus at 2 and 3 in the region. In Cairo, and all 3 of the makers' losses came to arch rivals Thomasville and Bay Ridge, as well as to America Sumter for their lone region loss of 2017. And then you got West, and then got mentioned earlier, Columbus High, all sitting are 4th at 2 and 3. And Columbus High, all as is Hardaway and Carver at 2 and 6. And then Patriots in GHSA Region 14A, the Westover Patriots sitting in region play 3 and 5 overall, and out of GHSA Region 14A from Columbus, Shaw winless at 0 and 5 and 1 and 7 overall. And we're looking at the Region 14A so far. And see, America Sumter. And America Sumter is guaranteed no worse than a third place finish in GHSA Region 1-4A. And the Panthers travel to Columbus to face Columbus High on Saturday. Back home on Friday, November 3rd. Of Columbus. They're clinched no worse than the number 3 seed, but pick up wins in their final 2 games. Where their final 2 games basically lock up first place in GHSA Region 1-4A. And the game between Cairo and Northside of Columbus, up in Columbus on Friday night. Both teams sitting at 4, and basically that game is for second place in Region 1-4A. Second, loser will finish third. What happens in the regular season? Columbus Cairo game dropped to as low as 4th. Speaking of 4th place, and as I mentioned earlier, Columbus High, Hardaway High, and Carver are 4th, 2 and 3 in the region. And then this is where the Westover Patriots come in. And just 1 and 4 in the region, and 3 and 5 overall. Westover basically must win their final 2 games. Patriots go up to Columbus to face Shaw on Thursday night. Westover would have to beat Shaw, number one on Thursday October 26th, and then they will have to knock off Northside of Columbus in the Battle of the Patriots at Hugh Mills Stadium on Friday, November 3rd, to guarantee themselves a 3 and 4 finish in Region 1-4A. And even at that point, Westover would still need a lot of help. I do mean a lot of help just to back into the playoffs as the number 4 seed. Trails not 1 and 3 teams. Westover trails not 1 or even 2. 3 teams. Columbus in the battle for that 4th region final playoff berth out of Region 1-4A. And has to go to Columbus Thursday night in Shaw and come back north side of Columbus. Westover Patriots will have to knock off those other Patriots in north side of Columbus on Friday, the number 3rd, to close out the regular season. If they don't take care of business up in Columbus against Shaw, doesn't take care of business Columbus on Thursday night, that final regular season game against Northside Columbus, not going to matter. Westover have to take care of business in order to have any shot in the postseason play. The time is now 8:36 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, Tuesday, October 24th, 2017. You're listening to the podcast, West Georgia Network, Twitter, YouTube channel. I'm your host, Walter Johnson. Back in a bit. high school football roundup podcast on the Southwest Georgia Network, on Twitter at SWJ Network, and the Southwest Georgia Network YouTube channel. Don't forget to click subscribe. You just follow on Twitter, and then just listen. Then watch for the live stream indicator Twitter page, and I'm going to move right along to GHSA Region 1 AAA. In Crisp County, coming off a 31-7 win over Cook down in Adel, Georgia. While Trojans kept the Worth County Rams winless with a 26-13 victory. 26-13 victory. So in that league, and Monroe had the week off last week, the Monroe Tornadoes. And a quick look at the Region 1 AAA standings. County sits undefeated in GHSA Region 1 AAA at 2-0, 6-1 overall. Cook 2-1 in the region, 3-5 overall. And Cook had a 3-game winning streak snapped with the loss to Crisp County and Monroe last week, whose Tornadoes had last week off. Their first two region contests at 1-1 in the region, 29 defeated Daugherty, 29-19. County on Friday the 13th, 50-26 the final score. Right now, edge for the fourth and final playoff berth out of GHSA Region 1 AAA, sitting at 1-2 in the region, 2-7 overall. And Daugherty had lost 6 in a row over Worth County. Again, the final score in that contest, 26-13. Trojans from Albany, the Daugherty Trojans, and the Worth County Rams out of Sylvester, Georgia, 20 miles east of Albany. Sitting at the bottom of the Region 1 AAA standings, winless at 0-2, 8 overall. And AAA lineup got Monroe at Worth County. Heads up Cordial, Georgia, take on the Crisp Cougars. And the Cook Hornets respond on the loss to Crisp County by stepping out of the side of the region, traveling to Nashville, Georgia. That's a very short trip from Adel on Georgia Highway 37 to take on Berrien. And Berrien, overall season, and one of Berrien's 4 wins came into a couple of Berrien's wins, by the way, over Daugherty and Monroe. 7 win for Berrien on September 1st. Low scoring game, and then 4 weeks later, outlasted the Tornadoes 13-10. Back to AAA race in Crisp County. Win over Daugherty this week or next week on November 3rd to clinch a playoff spot. Cook, on the other hand, playoff berth, lose to Monroe. If Cook, Worth County were to knock off Monroe, that's certainly a possibility. Also, lock up a postseason the Tornadoes down in Adel for Tornadoes. they can clinch a playoff berth for the Worth County. So home field advantage for a first round playoff game with wins over both Worth County and Cook. Both Worth County and Cook could force the Tornadoes to sit at home for 2017, which would put the Tornadoes out of playoff contention. And Trojans can also it's Worth County, but and there's also a possibility Trojans from Albany finish in a three-way tie should Monroe and Doherty fall to Crisp County. Of possibilities out there heading into these final 2 weeks of the regular season. And so it seems like that I think in that game between Monroe and Worth County over in Sylvester to the trap game for Monroe. You get to this late, what you get this get to, into the what you get to this late in the season, and teams could just easily fall into those traps. Easily fall into those traps as far as the playoffs. And and so the two big games the two critical games in Region 1 AAA this week got Monroe going to Worth County. And the Tornadoes can all but clinch a playoff berth if they beat the Rams this week. Or if and then Darty can also get in the playoffs. Or to beat Worth County. So while Darty's headed up to Crisp County to take on the Cougars, many of those Trojan fans in East Albany so who knows by the end of the night both Darty and Monroe, unlike Westover, could both advance to postseason play. Both teams could advance to the playoffs, and considering that Albany High is no longer around thanks to a 4-3 vote by the Doherty County Board of Education back on June 6th of this year, June 6, 2017, that led to the immediate closure of Albany High School. And it would be really amazing if the three GHSA teams from Albany would advance to the playoffs. And depending on how things shake out in the last 2 weeks, and all three GHSA teams from Albany and Doherty County to go to the playoffs. Although all three of them will have to hit the road for the first round. And speaking of which, Doherty, Monroe, and Westover are all on the road this week. And going to move on to GHSA Region 1 Single A. And GHSA Region 1 Single A, and Mitchell County and Pelham. It's basically been those two teams all season long. And both the Eagles and the Hornets have won 7 in a row since losing their season openers. Ironically, both two teams from Albany and Mitchell County fell to Doherty in their season opener back on August 26th. And a last-second touchdown from Doherty. Last-second touchdown catch from Doherty. This is way back on Saturday, August 26th. And Mitchell and the Eagles have basically been on a roll ever since. Whereas they're 8 in a row. And the Calhoun County Cougars were the Eagles' latest victim, as Mitchell County cruised to a convincing 42-0 victory last Saturday. This is Saturday, October 21st, and they'll host Bacon and Charter. Looking at a potential trap game there for Mitchell County at Centennial Field, and the Pelham Hornets can't afford to look ahead either. And Pelham Hornets can't look too far ahead either, as they play host to Seminole County. Seminole County sitting at 5-3 in region play, 5-2 in region play, I should say, and 5-3 overall. 5-2 in region play, 5-3 overall. After and Seminole County fell, Seminole County picked up a 48-13 win over Bacon and Charter last week. But just the week before, on Friday the 13th, and Seminole fell 35-8 to visiting Mitchell County. And Mitchell County and Pelham will square off in the regular season finale in Camilla on Friday, November 3rd. And the loser of the Pelham Mitchell County game will probably host the first round game. And that's according to the latest power rankings. And keep in mind the top 24 teams in Class Single A, and that goes for the private as well as the public school subdivisions at GHSA Class Single A, which is the smallest of the GHSA 7 classifications. Top 24 teams in both the private and public school subdivisions advance to the playoffs. And I'd also like to mention Pelham has won 7 in a row since opening the season, with a tough 35-28 loss at home to Westover on August 18th. And that seemed like eons ago. And beyond Pelham and Mitchell County, and it's anybody's guess as to who will join Mitchell County and Pelham in the Single A public school playoffs. And Chattahoochee County, even though they're just 5-3 overall and 5-2 in Region 1 Single A play, and they could possibly host a first round playoff game depending on whether or not they run the table. In Chattahoochee County High School in Casita, Georgia, just south of Columbus, in Region 1 Single A. And then it really gets interesting beyond Chattahoochee County and Miller County and Seminole County, both 5-3 overall, and the Pirates from down in Colquitt, Georgia, some 40-plus miles southwest of Albany. So 5-3 overall, and they're 4-3 in Region 1 Single A action. And they're in position for a first-round game in Seminole County. If the season ended today, we'll be on the outside looking in, even though Seminole's 5-2 in Region 1 Single A action. So, and again, the top 24 teams advance to the playoffs. And despite being just 2-6 overall and 2-5 in Region 1 Single A, the Terrell County Green Waves out of Dawson, Georgia, some 20 plus miles northwest of Albany. Could somehow find itself get into the playoffs. But the Greenway, but they would need wins probably over Calhoun County this week and Randolph Clay next week, and then maybe even and a lot of help. Sotero County would need to beat Calhoun County this week and Randolph Clay next week. Plus, get some help along the way. Try to get to work their way into postseason play. There's no worse than the number 24 seed, which would mean first round home game and first round road trip somewhere, clear across the state. And as for you got let's see, how about the teams are pretty much out of it at this point. Randolph Clay Red Devils from Cuthbert, Georgia, 2-6 overall, and 2-5 in Region 1 Single A. Bacon Charter 3-5 and 2-5. Calhoun County, only one win against 7 losses, and that one win came in region play. Stewart County up in Lumpkin, Georgia, just below Chattahoochee County, and the Royal Knights are just 1-7 overall, and winless in Region 1 Single A action 0-7. And Patala Charter out of Edison, Georgia, is 1-6 overall. Patala Charter, Patala spelled Pataula. Patala Charter is playing a non-region schedule and therefore not eligible for postseason play. And how about some other games and items of interest to wrap up this edition of the High School Football Roundup podcast? And perhaps and week in Region 17A, and it's the only game this week in Region 1 Single A, will take place at Martin Stadium, better known as the Concrete Palace in Valdosta, Georgia, as the Lowndes Vikings, undefeated at 7-0, made it undefeated at 9-0, will try to wrap up their regular season undefeated, playing host to the Colquitt County Packers. And aside from a close 51-38 win at Tiffin County 2 weeks ago on Friday, October 13th, Lowndes has basically dominated their opponents. And the final score. Look at the final scores of the games. Looking at the final scores of the games they played so far. You have Valdosta crushing Valdosta 45-0. International School of Broward County, Florida 56-0. Parkview 64-38. Newton 57-0. Shiloh 55-0. Ware County 37-6. Mount Zion of Jonesboro 68-7. Again, I mentioned the Tiffin County scores 51-38. And last week, and Lowndes traveled to Kingsland, Georgia, and crushed Camden County 52-10. And Lowndes will be looking to complete the 10 factor, if you will, if they can beat Colquitt County. And before getting to the Packers from down in Moultrie, Georgia, and that tough loss, to Tiffin County. And a quick look at the Region 17A standings, and Lowndes, as mentioned earlier, sit at 2-0 in region play, 9 overall. And so far, the Vikings have outscored their opponents by a whopping count of 485-99, 45-99. And those totals includes 4 shutouts. So, Lowndes has been getting the job done so far this season, and especially on the defensive side of the football. And then Tiffin County and Colquitt County sit tied for first in Region 17A at 1-1. And the Blue Devils are 8-1 overall. Colquitt County at 7-2 overall. And Packers' only other loss came to Brookwood out of Snellville, Georgia, and Camden County, and Gwinnett County. That's Metro Atlanta area, and Camden County. And rounds out the Region 1-7A standings, winless in region play at 0-2, 3-5 overall. And it was just that simple with Colquitt County Lowndes. If Lowndes wins, they'll be the region champions outright, no matter what else happens. Next week with the Camden County Tiffin County game. But if Colquitt County pulls off the upset, hands Lowndes their first loss. And if Tiffin County were to defeat Camden County next week in Tifton at Gene Brody Field, and then you're looking at a potential three-way tie for first place in Region 1-7A to wrap up the regular season, and then the mathematicians will have to put their geniuses or mathematical geniuses to work in order to break that three-way tie, potential three-way tie. And also, there's the possibility that Camden County could pull off the upset over Camden County could pull off the upset on the road over Tiffin County, and say Colquitt beats Lowndes and Camden knocks off Tiff. I mean, there could be there could be more confusion, and then the top three teams in GHSA Region 1-7 and a 4-team region like GHSA Region 1-7A, the top four teams are guaranteed playoff berths, no matter what. And then the fourth team will be determined by which fifth place team, whether or not Tiffin County has a high power rating or which fifth place team in regions 2 through 8. All those regions are in around Atlanta, the Metro Atlanta area. And the best fifth place team could best fifth place team from regions 2 through 8 could possibly steal a playoff berth. And but for this week, all eyes will be on the Concrete Palace or Martin Stadium in Valdosta as Lowndes host Colquitt County. Should be a good one. And speaking of good games, how about probably the game of the weekend, Class AA, taking place down in Quitman, Georgia, as the Thomasville Bulldogs 8-0 overall, and make the short trip along U.S. Highway 84 to Quitman, Georgia, to take on the Berks County Trojans. And Thomasville last week rolled past Lawton Childs out of Tallahassee, Florida, 49-12 to win their to go to 8-0 for the first time since way back in 1988. And that was when Thomasville won its last state championship. I mean, and it only seems like yesterday that a program, a rich in tradition like Thomasville, would come away with a state championship. But head coach Jack Grage, just the second year coaching the red and gold clad Bulldogs, has done an excellent job, a really excellent job of leading this Thomasville program back to prominence in among the Georgia high school football circles. And Thomasville, just like Lowndes, been dominating the opponents they've played so far, and their closest game coming against Cook, and the Bulldogs escaped 8L, escaped the Hornets' Nest in 8L with a 40-34 win 40-34. I think that was as close as Thomasville's gotten to tasting defeat in 2017. And they'll face a Brooks County team in that 7-0 overall. And very much like Thomasville, Brooks County has dominated its opponents and pitched 4 shutouts, but have also had some close wins. And over Clinch County, 17-14. In the Clinch County Perennial Class Single A powerhouse out of Homerville, Georgia, right around the Okokie Swamp. And then on September 29th, and Brooks County got by Crisp County. It was then a battle of undefeated teams, 31-21, down in Quitman. And so far, Brooks County's been dominant in its 2 region contests, scoring exactly 49 points in both games, which resulted in wins. On October 6th, Brooks County blasted Early County on the road 49-0. And Fitzgerald 49-17 last week. And Early County dominated against Fitzgerald and winning easily 49-17. And Early County and Fitzgerald both hit the road and for playoff action. I mean, not playoff action. And Early County will hit the road to face Fitzgerald in a game that could decide who will join Brooks County and Thomasville in the playoffs. When all is said and done on November 3rd. And again, the GHSA Region 1 AA standings. Brooks County and Thomasville at 2-0. And Thomasville in the region, and Brooks is 7-0 overall. And Thomasville 2-0. I mean, make that 8-0 overall. Both teams are 2-0 in the region. It's just too bad that one of these teams will walk off the field on the losing end. But as the way it is, but as the way things go in football and other sports or any other games that people play, somebody has to win and somebody has to lose. And Fitzgerald and Early County, and that game could have been Fitzgerald, Georgia, and Fitzgerald 1-1 in region play, 3-5 overall, and Early County Bobcats out of Blakely, Georgia, still looking for their first region win. And Early County winless at 0-3 in the region, 2-6 overall. And see that game, and say Early County knocks off Fitzgerald, and then Fitzgerald loses to Thomasville in its season finale, and Berrien falls to Brooks County. There could be a potential 3-way tie for the final 2 playoff berths in GHSA Region 1 AA. And this is also Early County's final region contest of the 2017 season. And then after the Fitzgerald game, and the Early County wraps up the season against Dothan, Alabama, non-region contest, and a game that replaced Albany High on the schedule. And again, as I mentioned earlier, it was because of the sudden closure of Albany High back in June by 43 vote of the Dougherty County Board of Education. And you see, maybe take a quick look at one more region. You see GHSA in the GHSA Region 2 Single A. And right now, Irwin County in the driver's seat there, undefeated in the region play, 5-0. And Irwin County is 7-1. Charlton County 6-1, 4-1. Clinch County 4-1, 6-2. And Turner County 3-2, 5-3. Terrified County 2-3 in the region, 3-5 overall. Wilcox County and Atkinson County both tied for 6th at 1-4. Wilcox 2-6 overall. Atkinson 1-7 overall. Lear County winless in region play at 0-5, and the Bulldogs out of Lakeland, Georgia, are 1-7 overall. And Irwin's pretty much in the driver's seat. And so they can finish no worse than third, no matter what happens. And Irwin, though, I'm sure, wants to be at home, want to finish his high, wants to win that region championship, get a high favorable seeding, and advance to the playoffs. And see, Turner County. And see, Irwin County came off a big win, 52-3 over Wilcox County last week. And results were equally impressive for Turner County. And Turner County trounced Atkinson County 53-13. Turner County hosts Wilcox County in a potential trap game. And before I say trap because Turner County closes out the regular season on the road at Irwin County. You see, Irwin County is at Atkinson County this week. And finally, a quick look at the GISA playoffs and the Deerfield Windsor Knights as a result of finishing second behind region champion Valwood out of Valdosta, Georgia, and ahead of third place Southland Academy out of Americus, Georgia. And despite finishing 9-1 in the regular season, and the Southland will be finished. Southland will have to settle for third, I should say, and will have to hit the road. Anyways, Deerfield Windsor will be at home against Bullock Academy, and should the Knights win that game, they'll face the winner of the Gatewood Laguna Christian game, and number 2 seed Valwood is at home against Edmund Burke, and number 4 seed Tift Area out of Chula, Georgia. Number 4 seed Tift Area out of Chula, Georgia will head to St. Simon's Island to face Region 2 AAA number 1 seed Frederica, and number 3 seed Southland will face Trinity Christian out of Dublin. And finally, in Class AA, and the Southwest Georgia Academy Warriors out of Damascus, Georgia, will be the number 1 seed out of Region 3 AA, and will host the winner of the Brentwood Piedmont game on Friday, November 3rd. And at number 2, the Terrell Academy Eagles out of Dawson, Georgia, home against First Presbyterian Christian. And the winner of that game will face Briarwood. And the number 3 seed will be the Westwood Wildcats out of Camilla, Georgia, 20 miles plus miles south of Albany. And Westwood will travel to Savannah to take on Region 2, number 2 seed Memorial Day. And that's GISA Class AA. So that's going to do it for this edition of the High School Football Roundup podcast for Tuesday, October 24th, 2017. And this has been your host, Walter Johnson. Remember to follow the Southwest Georgia Network on Twitter at SWJ Network, and also listen live on the Southwest Georgia Network YouTube channel. I do thank you for listening, and have a good night, good morning, and good afternoon.